Sunday night. Long day of travel for me, so not on camera. We'll be back, obviously, by the time you've listened to this podcast. We were on SimWorld today, so we'll be back to normal next Monday, I think. But in the meantime, we had a full weekend of SimWorld prep, and as we flip to April, it makes me want to test hypothesis number 2 of the year. Obviously, the first one we did that we have out there currently is that you cannot win a championship with one guy. You know, that's the OGs who I've personally written off. The reigning Trays fall under that list. I think at times Gulf Coast falls under that list. That hypothesis is probably never going to be proven to be right or wrong because there's inevitably going to be a team that finds their way to win with just one star. Heck, it could happen this season with any of those 3 teams I just mentioned. But wanted to test out another hypothesis. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by the number of teams that fall under this category, including those 2 of those 3 that we just mentioned. And then there's a reason the third one deserves reference as well. But in order to win the race to 1, you have to win 5 straight games. Breaking news, I know. 32 teams make the single elimination tournament, 1 through 8. They are seeded, and within that, they have to win 5 consecutive games. So the simple equation is we need proof that you can win 5 straight games. Because if you have not won 5 straight games, again, as you listen to this, it's April 1st. If you have won 5 straight games, that means you could have won the race to 1. If you haven't pulled that off, that means I wouldn't have a very high confidence meter that you could accomplish such a feat when it's needed most. Now, it's possible. Of course it's possible. But this is a hypothesis for a reason. And again, one that will probably never be proven definitively right or wrong. So I went out, looked at every single team that has won at least 5 games this season, and I was actually very surprised at the fact that there are 11 teams that have won 5+ games this season. For various reasons, I don't know that all of them are going to be able to win, but this is still a shocking fact to me that there are 11 teams that have won 5 straight games. Not that there are good teams that have done that, because there have been, and we'll get to them, but it just seemed like a high number. I was truthfully expecting this number to be maybe 6, 7 at most, but no. In alphabetical order, Atlantis has won 5. Bay Area 6. Beasts, this is longest winning streaks. Beasts actively at 9. Cascadia at 7. Heartland 5. Philadelphia, of course, 12. Lakeshore 5 straight. They actually hadn't lost 2 in a row until their recent 3-game skid all season. Oceania 5. Queen City Kings 5. Reigning Trays 5. Plus in that stretch 9 of 10. And the OGs, until their most recent 7-game winning streak, had not won 5 games in a row. So those are the 11 teams that if you look and say you have proven at some point this season to be capable of winning the race to 1 by stringing together at least 5 games. Now, within that group, I think it's fair to write off Bay Area. I think that's almost warranted. And I would also write off Queen City Kings from that group. Not that Queen City Kings can't put it together. Obviously, the track record shows they can. But this goes back to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago. What have you been more often than not? And if we're going to discredit, or we're going to say, hey, let's look at a team minus their losing streak, I think we have to do the opposite and say, let's look at a team minus their winning streak. And Queen City Kings have really struggled outside of that one really great stretch. So over the course of the season, who are they more like? A 5-game winning streak team or a team that loses? I think they've got 9 wins on the season, so all but 4 of their other games. The body of work tells us that it's not that good of a team. Meanwhile, Bay Area, they just have no roster left. They played with 6 guys in that loss to Cascadia. It wasn't close. It's just not there. So of that means we've got 9 teams that have proven to have a shred of a doubt to be able to win the race to 1 because they've won at least 5. Atlantis, Beasts, Cascadia, Heartland, Philadelphia, Lakeshore, Oceania, Reigning Trays, and the OGs. Now, beyond that list, we've got 5 teams that have put together a body of work that I think would be warranted of inclusion in this. Now, Indy won 4 games in a row earlier in the season. Europe has won 4 straight games twice this season. Best Coast and South America both have won 6 games in 7 games, both of them having 3-game winning streaks sandwiching a loss, and then Gulf Coast 7 and 8, a 4 and a 3-game winning streak on either ends of a loss. That tells me that those 4 teams, with the right matchups could get to 5. I don't think that we should just say, hey, they can't get there because they haven't yet won 5 games. They're capable of getting there based off what they've done. 1 win, 1 loss is very easy to swing in either direction, and all 5 of those teams have proven to get to the cusp of it. But if you've only won 3 games, to me that tells me you cannot get over the hump. You cannot string together all the requisite wins that are needed. 4, it's a passing grade, right? You're not getting into Yale or Harvard with that grade, but you're going to college. It's good enough. But if you won 3, you didn't really put together a body of work that tells me, hey, when push comes to shove, this group is going to get it done. Meanwhile, there are 2 teams currently with active 3-game winning streaks, Rocky Mountain and Southeast Select. Of those 2, I would probably rule out Rocky Mountain because I don't trust their defense to be able to withstand 5 games in a row. Their offense, I've said this many times, their offense is incredible. They've got great pieces. I think offensively what Coach Josh Robinson has done with that group has been great. I don't think it's a schematic coaching issue with their defense. I think it's a player issue. I don't think they have, and I said this before, right before their debacle with, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, that came and went in the span of 72 hours. They don't have a defender on that group. And I'm not saying a point of attack elite lockdown. I'm saying they don't have anybody. Those guys do not play defense, though most recently they have been stepping up, so that could be proven wrong. What does all this mean? Well, it doesn't mean a whole lot, outside of saying I think there's probably, within this group, 15 teams that can win a championship. Now, that number seems large. That number seems very large, and it shouldn't be all that surprising. But it is notable the number of teams. I came into this fully expecting and this is why we test hypothesis, folks, fully expecting the result of our test to say there's 5 teams that can win the race to 1. Thanks everybody else for playing. We'll talk to you for the next season. No, this is still massively wide open. Atlantis has been good under a phenomenal coaching job. I've said it before about head coach Tomas Kusa. He's going to be my coach of the year vote. It's not even going to be close, in my opinion, because what he's doing with the pieces. Sure, geez, you got Cooper Flagg, sick. Coach Dodge is doing a great job with, for the 3rd straight time, an elite player after having DJ Wagner and Johnny Baldwin. Awesome. Reigning Trace, sick. You want me to reward you for having Japheth Towns on your team? You want me to reward Javonte Vance for having D'Angelo Jordan on your team? You want me to reward Coach Pope and Cascadia for having Kevon Jackson? I think that's actually an argument there. The other team I would probably put in that is Philadelphia. Coach Drees has done a phenomenal job in that 12-game winning streak. But back to the original point, Atlantis has been phenomenal. That's not a team I would have expected to be in this list. But it seems to be, not it doesn't seem to be, but it proves again that this is still massively wide open. And over the next 2 months, a lot of things are going to change before we get to June and we actually start to play games that matter even more than they currently do. Last piece, Latin America. This is not a we need to talk about it more type of thing, but it's an observation. Latin America has not been good this season, except as of late, they actually have been. They've won 3 of their last 4. Their last 3 losses since they got blasted 60-35, I think it was, have come by 8, 4, and 4 points. They have been competitive in their last 6 games. Again, winning 3 of their last 4. The big part of that has really stood out to me has been Red Jointer. He has been sneakily very good. 6 straight games of 13-plus points, 5 straight games of assists, 5 or more. He's got 4-plus rebounds in 3 of his last 6. He's been very high usage, and we've talked about that being a negative for some of these guys. And don't always look at the scoring number, but look at their efficiency. Royce Anderson, a great example of how we've talked about in the past. Red Jointer, has only 1 game where he's shooting 50% or better. Literally, it was 50% over his last 6, over that run of 13-plus points. But that's been weighed down by some really, really bad three-point shooting. He's gone 5 of 25 over the last 6 games. He's not a good three-point shooter, and yet he's taking a very high volume of them. 4 games this season, that's it, where he has shot 40% or better. Only one of them came with more than 2 attempts. So you're looking at a 1-for-1, a 1-for-2. The only abnormality there is the 2-for-5, 40%. Otherwise, it's a 1-for-2 twice and a 1-for-1 once. If he can isolate, if he can change his shot diet to be more interior, he's got a very high ceiling. He's taken multiple three-pointers in all but 2 games this season and has taken 3+ in all but 7 games this season. He would be a much better offensive weapon if you took those three-pointers, trimmed it down to 1 to 3 a game, and simply made all of those interior pieces. He's a great facilitator with the basketball. He gets into the paint very well. He's 7th in the league at 4.7 assists per game. So he'd be better served by just attacking the rim, eliminating the three-point shot from his repertoire. That's going to have to happen at the next level. And I think you look at the schools that are interested in Red Jointer. It's New Mexico, at least as has been currently reported. New Mexico, San Diego State, and SMU. Those are not notable programs, partially because Red Jointer's playing on a basketball team that's not really that great, so no one's paying that much attention, but partially because he's being the guy that's ending up with the ball in his hands more often than not, and it's been to, I wouldn't call them mixed results, but not winning results, and that's obviously going to end up impacting the long run. And a result of him in New Mexico next to Ireland early, just as a quick tangent, I think would be phenomenal. But if he can change that shot diet and to be more interior based, I actually really like the upside of Red Jointer as a 1 or 2 guard. He's listed as a point guard and he's listed at 6'5", 184. You put him at the 2, or if you tagged him again, let's use Ireland early, in that backcourt, he can play next to a bigger guard, play defense against bigger guards, play next to smaller or good shooting guards. He's a very versatile player because of that, if, again, he can change his shot diet, make it all inside. All right, we got a handful of games coming up this season, or this week rather, all of them over on SimWorld TV. Please make sure you tune in there. Thank you as always for tuning in here, and we will talk to you tomorrow morning on SimWorld Today. By the time you're listening to this tomorrow morning. Thanks again. Talk to you later.